He thought her silence meant surrender, but silence is not submission. It is the sound of a storm held between clenched teeth, the quiet before a kingdom burns. Men like him never see it coming. They mistake stillness for peace, indifference for emptiness. They chase what they cannot own, and when she no longer resists, he believes she has yielded. But she has only withdrawn her energy, her gaze, her oxygen. That is how obsession begins, not in abundance, but in deprivation. The moment she pulls away, his mind fractures. He begins to haunt his own thoughts. Every breath he takes tastes like her absence. It is not love he feels now, but addiction, the hunger to reinsert himself into a space that no longer welcomes him. He calls it passion, but it is possession disguised as devotion. If you have ever watched a man unravel, you know this pattern. His voice lowers, his eyes sharpen, his control slips. The more he loses her, the more violently he seeks her. He will rewrite the story to make her the villain, because to admit he is addicted to rejection would destroy the illusion of power that keeps his fragile ego breathing. Male obsession is not about her. It is about what she reflects, the unclaimed fragments of his anima, the feminine within him he has buried beneath conquest, success, and control. He chases her to reclaim the parts of himself he has exiled. But every time he gets close, her silence mirrors his fear. She becomes the mirror that shows him his own emptiness, and he cannot look away. You see, obsession is not born in love. It is born in lack. A man becomes obsessed when he meets a woman who refuses to collapse under his desire. He cannot possess her because she does not need to be possessed. She does not feed his ego, she exposes it. And when a woman stops needing, he starts breaking. Most men are not equipped to face that kind of mirror. They want devotion, not reflection. They crave submission, not sovereignty. But when she does not bend, his fantasy shatters, and in the ruins, he finds himself staring into the face of his own insignificance. That is when the obsession mutates from desire to madness. In the mythic language of Jung, she has become his anima possession, the ghost of the feminine that consumes him from within. She becomes both the dream and the punishment. The more he wants her, the deeper he descends into projection. He does not love her. He loves the image his psyche has painted on her silence. He wants to own the reflection, not the reality. But she no longer belongs to the world of mirrors. She has stepped into the dark water of the witch archetype, the one who seduces not with beauty but with absence. She does not offer warmth, she offers the void. And in that void, every man must face himself. You must understand this. Power is not noise. Power is withdrawal. When she stops explaining, justifying, or pleading, she becomes untouchable. Her silence turns into an altar where his ego goes to die. So when he calls, do not answer. When he provokes, do not react. When he mocks your distance, let him choke on the echo. Men fall not because women fight, but because women disappear. His obsession will rot him from the inside. He will search for her in every woman who follows, but none will carry the same silence, the same unspoken finality. Because once she has seen the truth, she cannot return to illusion. She becomes the thing every man fears and every woman secretly worships, the embodiment of quiet power. And you, if you are listening, remember this. A woman's greatest weapon is not beauty or intelligence. It is detachment, the ability to walk away without looking back, to leave a man drowning in the ocean he dug for her. So tonight, let your silence speak. Do not text. Do not explain. Let him feel what he once thought he controlled. Let him taste the emptiness he built. Let him understand that obsession is not romance. It is the punishment of those who mistake control for love. He will remember your absence more than your presence, because absence is eternal. It cannot be replaced. It cannot be forgotten. It becomes the haunting that lingers in the rooms of his mind long after you've left. She was never his to keep. She was only his lesson. He wakes in the dark, reaching for a ghost that no longer answers. The scent of her has faded, but the echo of her stillness lives in his bloodstream. He remembers her eyes, not the color, but the way they never pleaded. That quiet defiance carved him open. It made him question the worth of every victory he had ever won. He tries to hate her, but hatred requires energy, and she has already taken his. What remains is fixation, the looping of a mind that cannot accept defeat. Every silence from her becomes a sermon. Every memory, a wound he keeps reopening to prove he can still feel something. This is the secret curse of the masculine when unintegrated. He confuses pursuit with purpose. He believes wanting is SDR. That conquest affirms existence. Yet the deeper truth cuts colder. His obsession is not with her, but with the reflection of power he loses in her rejection. The male ego dies when it is unseen. That is why indifference destroys him more than betrayal. A woman who cheats wounds his pride, but a woman who forgets him annihilates his identity. To be erased from her attention is to vanish from reality itself. In Jungian shadow, he meets his punishment. The anima, his buried feminine, rises from within, wearing her face. She whispers not with comfort but with consequence. He sees her in every stranger. He dreams of her voice but cannot remember her words. She becomes the haunting he cannot exorcise because she was never real to begin with. She was his projection, the mirror of what he denied in himself. But what of her? The woman who walked away. She has entered the realm of the dark feminine, that sacred, merciless territory where emotion transforms into sovereignty. Once she needed to be chosen. Now she only chooses herself. Once she tried to explain. Now she lets her silence echo louder than any justification. He calls her cruel, but cruelty is the judgment of those who fear boundaries. To be unmoved is not to be heartless. It is to refuse the cycle of ego validation that keeps men small and women enslaved. She does not hate him. She simply no longer feeds him. And for a man addicted to validation, that absence feels like death. You must understand. Men fall in love with the women who reflect their light, but they become obsessed with the ones who reflect their shadow. The woman who exposes his weakness, who does not worship his control, who stands before his rage without trembling, she becomes unforgettable. Because she reminds him that beneath his armor there is fear. And that fear is ancient. It is the fear of insignificance, the terror of being unseen, the dread of being ordinary. Every man carries it, buried beneath ambition and dominance. When he meets a woman who sees through all of it, who does not need what he offers, he experiences spiritual annihilation. He mistakes that death for love. The truth is simpler and crueler. He is not in love. He is in recovery from the illusion of control. Her silence stripped him bare, forced him to face the void he had built around himself. That void has no cure but acceptance. You listening now must learn this lesson too. Never become the caretaker of a man's ego. Let him starve until he finds his own reflection. Let his obsession burn itself into ash. That is not vengeance. That is nature. Because the woman who chooses silence becomes myth. She exists between memory and imagination. She no longer explains her leaving. She becomes the symbol of every boundary ever broken. And when he finally stops fighting, he will understand her absence was not punishment. It was mercy. So do not answer. Do not soften. The moment you justify your distance, you give him oxygen. Let him suffocate on his projections. Let him meet the ghost of his own anima. Tonight sit in stillness. No words, no replies. Let someone feel your absence like a funeral. He begins to wander through the ruins of what once made him feel invincible. The phone glows like an altar, yet no message comes. He replays her last words until they lose meaning, until every silence between syllables turns into accusation. He cannot understand how something so alive could vanish without ceremony. That is the cruelty of the dark feminine. She never needs to slam the door. She simply stops being reachable. Her disappearance is not an act of war, but a declaration of divinity. She does not destroy him directly. She lets his own need do the work. Every man who has known such a woman carries the same scar. It is not on the body. It is carved into the ego, right where pride once lived. He calls it heartbreak, but it is revelation. He has seen, for the first time, a woman who will not orbit around his need. And that vision, though brief, dismantles the illusion that he was ever a god. The dark feminine does not seduce with sweetness. She seduces with truth, the unbearable truth that no amount of control, success, or charm can make her stay. She is the embodiment of the anima unchained. Her presence awakens his desire, her absence reveals his dependence. The more he obsesses, the more the mirror turns inward. He begins to see the boy beneath the armor, the one who feared rejection so deeply that he learned to dominate rather than connect, the one who confused obedience with love, the one who mistook silence for weakness until her silence became his undoing. Every woman who has ascended into her darkness knows this transformation. She remembers when she begged, when she pleaded for understanding, when her worth was measured by someone else's attention. That version of her died the moment she realized her begging was worship, not of him, but of her own fear. Fear of being too fear of being unloved, fear of being left behind. But she faced those ghosts and did not flinch. She walked through abandonment and emerged crowned in indifference. Her calm now terrifies the same men who once called her dramatic. Her silence, once dismissed as submission, now carries the weight of judgment, because only the guilty fear silence. You can feel it, can't you? That power that hums beneath her composure. The kind that does not shout, does not prove. It just exists. It is the power of someone who has burned every version of herself that begged to be seen. And for him, this realization is unbearable. He wants to believe she still cares, that her calm is an act, that beneath her indifference lies longing. But he is wrong. There is no longing left, only clarity, only the understanding that love without freedom is worship without soul. She has become the mirror he cannot break. He looks into it and sees everything he has avoided. His rage, his fragility, his hunger for validation. She reflects not who he thinks he is, but what he truly is, a man addicted to control, terrified of irrelevance. This is how male obsession devours itself. It begins with desire, grows into dependence, and ends in despair. Because what he wanted was not her, it was himself, the man he thought he could be if she returned his gaze. When she withdraws, the illusion collapses. And that collapse is sacred. It is the death every man must endure if he wishes to be free from his projections. The death of the conqueror, the death of the savior, the death of the boy who mistook power for love. Do not pity him, let him fall. His ruin is initiation. His obsession is the gateway to self-knowledge. But you, the woman who walked away, must not look back. His transformation is not your responsibility. Your silence is the final lesson, not an invitation to teach. So remain untouchable. Let him seek meaning in your absence. Let him learn that not every wound deserves healing. Some are meant to scar, to remind him of the limits of control. The woman who owns her silence does not chase, she reigns. He dreams of her again, not as she was, but as a shadow walking through light he cannot reach. In the dream she turns, but her face is blank. No softness, no sorrow, just the silent certainty of someone who has already forgiven him by forgetting him. That is the final cruelty, to be erased not with hatred but with indifference. His days are now a ritual of punishment. Every small thing reminds him of her absence, the empty chair, the half-dream, the reflection of a stranger in a mirror he no longer trusts. He tries to speak her name, but it catches in his throat. It no longer belongs to him. The dark feminine leaves traces, but never footprints. She is memory distilled into myth. Men build altars in her honor, not because she gave them love, but because she took something from them they did not know could be taken, their illusion of control. This is where obsession becomes revelation. A man does not know himself until he meets the woman who refuses to need him. Until then, his power is untested, his desire unpurified. But when he faces a woman who is utterly beyond his reach, he meets the limits of his dominance. He realizes that all his striving, all his conquest, all his noise, meant nothing to the one thing he wanted most, her recognition. And when that recognition is denied, he descends into madness. Jung would call this the possession of the anima, the devouring of the masculine by the disowned feminine. She appears in his dreams, in his art, in his rage. He speaks of her as if she were still alive inside him because she is. She is not the woman herself. She is his shadow in feminine form, demanding integration. But few men integrate. Most resist. They externalize, they project, they seek another woman to fill the void. And so the cycle continues: possession, pursuit, disappointment, despair. Until one day, perhaps years later, he understands that what he loved in her was the part of himself he had never met. Meanwhile, she has ascended into silence. Her world has shifted from reaction to creation. She no longer waits for apology or recognition. She has become the observer, the one who watches without attachment. Her empathy has turned into discernment. Her love, once boundless, has learned discipline. Do you see it now? The contrast between obsession and sovereignty. One consumes, the other creates. One clings, the other releases. Obsession seeks to possess what it fears losing. Sovereignty knows that nothing real can be lost. She no longer plays in the theater of emotional chaos. She has learned that to react is to return to the cage. Now she chooses stillness, not apathy, but command. Her silence is not empty, it is strategy. It is the voice of one who no longer needs to prove her power because her very absence proves it for her. You must learn to speak that silence. The world will call it coldness, it is precision. It will call it cruelty, but it is clarity. The woman who has faced abandonment and lived no longer fears being alone. She knows that solitude is not punishment. It is her kingdom. He senses this. That is why he cannot let go. His obsession is not desire, it is envy. He envies her peace, her ability to detach, her immunity to his tactics. He envies the quiet within her that he cannot find within himself. Every man who becomes obsessed with a woman is, in truth, obsessed with the freedom she represents. And freedom, to the unhealed masculine, is unbearable. So let him ache, let him rage, let him name you witch, siren, shadow, all of it is truth. Because to the man who cannot control you, every form of power looks like evil. But you must not descend to explain yourself. The moment you justify, you return to the role of caretaker. The moment you explain, you surrender your mystery. The moment you reply, you break the spell. Hold your silence, hold your distance. That is your altar, your throne, your armor. Let him call your detachment cruelty. Let him mistake your peace for punishment. Let him learn that his obsession is the mirror of his weakness. The woman who walks away without anger terrifies more than the one who screams. Because her calm declares something final. There is nothing left to destroy. He begins to understand that she was never the storm. She was the mirror reflecting the storm inside him. The chaos he blamed on her was his own unclaimed hunger, his own refusal to sit in silence and face what he had buried. When she left, she took nothing but the truth, and that truth was enough to unravel him. He had built his world upon attention, the gaze of women, the validation of success, the illusion of control. But her detachment revealed the hollowness behind all of it. Every conquest had been a mask for fear. Every victory, a disguise for emptiness. Her silence stripped him naked before his own psyche. And now he trembles not because she is gone, but because he sees what remains. This is the archetypal wound, the fall of the uninitiated masculine. In Jungian language, it is the death of the persona, the shattering of the false self that feeds on admiration. When a man meets a woman who will not submit to that illusion, he faces the ultimate trial, to either destroy her or be reborn through her absence. Most choose destruction, few choose rebirth. But she has already chosen evolution. Her detachment is not vengeance, it is purification. She has shed the compulsion to fix, to explain, to soften her truth so that others may stay comfortable. Her compassion has become discipline. Her tenderness has turned into discernment. She does not chase love, she embodies it in silence. Her absence becomes sacred because it teaches what her presence could not. It teaches the price of neglect, the weight of projection, the cost of taking energy for granted. Her silence is not void, it is education. You, listening now, must understand this power. To withdraw without hatred is to master your polarity. To refuse to feed chaos with reaction is to reclaim sovereignty over your emotional field. Silence is not passive. It is the language of those who have transcended the need for recognition. When she disappears, he begins to collapse inward. His identity, once anchored in dominance, begins to dissolve. He questions his worth, his purpose, his value. But beneath that despair lies the seed of transformation, because only through the collapse of illusion does the authentic self emerge. He must face the shadow, the feminine within that he has long suppressed. The anima he projected onto her must now be integrated within him. Until he does, every woman he meets will become another battlefield for his unresolved self. Every love will turn into obsession. Every silence, a wound. And that is why her distance is mercy. She becomes the sacred wound, the teacher he cannot forget, the catalyst for his awakening. Her absence becomes the initiation he never received. She will not witness his transformation. That is not her role. She is the threshold, not the guide. Once crossed, she disappears into myth. He will speak of her to others, but his words will sound like scripture spoken through regret. They will feel the weight of something ancient in his tone, though he himself may not understand it. Meanwhile, she has entered another realm entirely, one beyond longing, beyond revenge, beyond attachment. She has stepped into the archetype of the shadow queen, the woman who rules herself. Her energy no longer leaks into arguments or explanations. It moves with intention, precision, and silence. Every man senses her when she walks into a room, even if they cannot name why. It is not her beauty, though she carries it effortlessly. It is the gravity of self-possession, the stillness that terrifies those who have never faced themselves. You must learn this stillness. Let it replace your knee. D to prove. Let it replace your hunger to be chosen. Power does not announce itself, it simply exists. If he returns, do not celebrate. If he apologizes, do not react. His return is not redemption, it is reflex. The ego always returns to what once fed it. Let him face the silence again until he learns that peace cannot be conquered. The dangerous truth about male obsession is that it is never about love. It is about the terror of being unseen. And when a woman stops mirroring that terror, she becomes divine in his eyes, not because she is perfect, but because she is unreachable. Remember this, he will not remember your laughter. He will remember the silence that followed it. He will not remember your warmth. He will remember the chill that replaced it. That is how you teach without speaking. That is how you win without fighting. That is how you become myth. Time erodes his defiance. What once burned with obsession now smolders in quiet despair. He no longer tries to summon her back. He only tries to forget her. But forgetting a mirror is impossible. Every reflection becomes a reminder. Every woman becomes a ghost of the one who left him staring at his own abyss. He begins to see that what he called love was dependency. What he called passion was fear. He mistook the chase for connection because movement distracted him from emptiness. She ended the motion, and in the stillness he found truth, unbearable, beautiful truth. He learns that control was never power. Control is a symptom of weakness disguised as dominance. True power is what she carries, the strength to detach without explanation, to let the world misinterpret her stillness as cruelty while knowing that silence is mercy in its purest form. The dark feminine is not cruel, she is corrective. Her energy reveals imbalance, not to punish but to expose. When she withdraws, she creates space, a void in which truth echoes louder than words. That void becomes the mirror every man fears and every soul secretly seeks. He stands before it now. The noise inside him quiets, the arguments lose weight, the blame fades into smoke, and in the silence she left behind, he finally meets the one he had avoided all along himself. The boy who learned to hide his pain beneath ambition, the man who measured worth by conquest, the soul that longed to be held but feared being seen. In her absence, he begins his descent not into madness this time, but into awareness. He starts to understand what Jung called individuation, the sacred alchemy of integrating one's shadow. The obsession was never about her. It was the soul's desperate attempt to recover what had been exiled. The feminine within, the capacity to feel without controlling, to love without devouring. And she has become the embodiment of that balance. The witch, the siren, the shadow queen. She has danced through rejection, betrayal, and abandonment and emerged with silence as her crown. She no longer seeks to be understood. She seeks only to be aligned. Her energy now moves differently, measured, intuitive, surgical. She knows her words are spells, her absence a blade, her calm a judgment. She has learned that the most terrifying power is restraint, to not react when provoked, to not speak when demanded, to not explain when accused. That is sovereignty. You must remember this. Silence is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. The world mistakes emotional control for emptiness, but in truth, it is the highest form of passion, one that does not need witness or validation. When she speaks now, it is rare, deliberate, like a god whispering between worlds. Each word carries consequence. Each glance defines distance. Men sense it, they approach but do not touch, speak but cannot penetrate. Her energy demands reverence, not possession. This is what obsession births when transformed reverence. He who once sought to own her now worships the memory of her. He who once called her cruel now calls her divine. That is the paradox of the dark feminine. She destroys illusion by embodying what illusion fears: independence, stillness, self-sufficiency. The woman who learns to be whole without being wanted becomes the most dangerous creature alive, because nothing can be used against her. Not desire, not abandonment, not loneliness. She has eaten them all and turned them into wisdom. He will spend years trying to recreate the feeling she gave him. He will search in every embrace, every conquest, every promise, but he will find only imitation. Because what he loved was not her body, but her being, that unmoved center that no chaos could shake. And such a thing cannot be replicated. It can only be earned. So when he finally kneels before his own shadow, whispering apologies to the void, know this: she is not listening. She has already transcended the need to be understood. Her silence has turned into law. Do not return to the ruins to prove your worth. Let your absence remain sacred. Let your silence remain final. The moment you explain, you betray your evolution. Power does not argue. It ends conversations with a look. The woman who knows her worth does not chase. She does not correct. She does not warn. She vanishes.